You're listening to The Film File right here on No Barriers Radio, the film show for film geeks by film geeks. Hello and welcome. It's The Film File with me, returning for my third week now, Lee Ford.
And me, Andy Meakin.
And what are we going to be doing in this week's show?
Talking about films, because that's what we do.
So we've got a deep dive. And what year are we picking for our deep dive?
1979.
We have reviews of...
There's The Devil's Mouth that landed on streaming this week. Seven Snipers landed on Sky. And we both had chance to see Netflix's latest release from Louis Leterrier, The Last House.
But before any of that, we've got some news, we've got some views, and of course, we have this week's box office. Clinging to the number one position, probably upside down or hanging from a web, is Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Spider-Man Brand New Day kept the top spot in the US, 145 million taken this weekend. The Odyssey in second place, 31.5 million. One Night Only in third place, 5.7 million. Super Troopers 3, 4 million for fourth. And Toy Story 5, 3.9 million for fifth place. Here in the UK, Spider-Man Brand New Day, top spot again, 36.4 million. The Odyssey in second place with 5.3 million. Paw Patrol, the Dino Movie in third place with 1.7 million. Toy Story 5 in fourth with 729,000 and Minions and Monsters in fifth place with 539,000. Yes, Spider-Man Brand New Day has held the top spot. Of course it has. It's now opened on some IMAX screens. That's helped keep the drop-off pretty good for Spider-Man. In its first 10 days, it reached 1.3 billion. So even if the drop-off this week was 100% and it did no business, they've already made tons of profit. So Sony and Marvel are sat back laughing and bathing in lots and lots of dollar signs, whilst the Odyssey is just creeping over the 1 billion mark itself, making it the fifth film to pass that mark this year.
Anyway, sticking with Marvel, X-Men casting news has been all over the internet over this last week as we get close to, and I'm assuming, as it's Disney's open day. Is it next weekend?
Next weekend, the D23.
I guess they're going to be talking about and probably unveiling something to do with X-Men.
Yeah.
So there's been casting rumors, but it seems now that there are three actors set. We mentioned last week Samara Weaving to play Emma Frost. Of course, Sadie Sink as Jean Grey. And Kit Connor has been cast in the role, apparently, as Cyclops, Scott Summers.
They're the ones that are apparently confirmed. And scoopers such as Daniel RPK have also been reporting that Marvel has chosen the actor to play Charles Xavier. And
now it's not Bill Skarsgård, is it?
No, Bill Skarsgård or Tom Pelphrey were both rumoured, but apparently that name's ready to be released.
And of course, there's been plenty of rumours about Adam Driver having a role in the film, but it's not clear as of yet who that is. And the money seems to be on possibly Magneto, but we don't know.
With regards to Professor X, Christopher Abbott has been rumoured to have been in talks.
Christopher Abbott, the Wolfman.
Yes.
I do remember him. Yeah, he was good in that.
There's various names getting thrown around at the moment. There's a lot of rumours, a lot of speculation, lots of pinch of salt. Like we say, the three confirmed are Samara Weaving, Kit Connor, and Sadie Sink. It's a good foundation on which to grow the X-Men properties going forwards. But like you say, D23's only a few days away. And I imagine that we'll get some more confirmation at that point. Quick update on Paramount Warner Brothers. So, as we discussed last week, that it was going into an antitrust case.
We mention it. We mention it in every show.
There's an update. I mean, we might go quiet on the updates now because a trial date has now been set for the antitrust case that we were talking about last week. And that is March the 2nd, 2027. The trial is set to run for 12 court days through to March the 19th before it's decided whether or not this deal can go through. Now, what makes me laugh the most about this is going to cost Paramount a chunk of money because they stupidly, with all their confidence earlier this year, said, once it gets past a certain date, we will pay out to our shareholders $7 million per day from October the 1st until this deal goes through. Well done, Paramount. I'm hoping that it ends up falling apart because of their cockiness here.
Yeah, there are still court cases around the world, even though the EU did kind of give the thumbs up on it.
Yeah.
there are still other countries that are looking at it through a judicial way. I bet the Warners wish now they'd gone with Netflix.
It probably would have gone through by this point with Netflix. Yeah. Someone's calculated it's going to cost about 1.2 billion in payouts to shareholders until that trial ends.
I wasn't on air when Sam Neill passed away, but subsequently what we found out is that he filmed a section for the live action version of Zelda.
Yes. We don't know what the role is, but seeing this news drop this week, and it was reported as Sam Neill has been cast. It's like, well, he must have been cast a while ago. Maybe choose your wording a bit better. He had a couple of films that were in post-production, but no one knew that he had a part in the upcoming Legend of Zelda. Who he's going to be playing, who knows? That will probably be the final film that we see him in out of the ones that are waiting to be released, because it's still got a long journey ahead of it before it comes to the screens. I'm still really sad at the passing of Sam Neill.
Yeah, I had to do a little bit for radio about him and just went through the works that he's done and
the variety.
Yeah, apparently it's the 10th anniversary of Hunt for the Wilder People.
Yeah,
and
had a reissue across some cinemas last week,
which he was fantastic in, and just proved what kind of an actor he was. Zelda is due in cinemas May the 7th, 2027, and is directed by Wes Ball, who gave us the last Planet of the Apes films. Now, talking of Planet of the Apes films, while I've been off, I read a report about Planet of the Apes movie in development with director Matt Shackman, who brought us Fantastic Four.
Yeah, it's going to be stepping away from, it's not going to follow the events of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It's going to do another jump ahead story. We don't know the details of it, but it's a shame that Wes Ball's not going to be staying around to continue the story that he kind of started, even though Kingdom is pretty much a self-contained story and doesn't need a sequel.
Yeah, it kind of hinted at a direction, though, didn't it?
Yeah, but whether any threads will get picked up as it moves under Shackman's ownership, I don't know, but I'm just happy to see more apes on film, to be honest with you. I've loved the revival of Planet of the Apes in the recent years.
Yes, very much. Do you remember that we spoke about last week things that were in development that suddenly got pulled?
Mm-hmm.
I've got some more for you this week.
What have you got?
David Fincher's Squid Games that was over at Netflix is no longer in development. There's been a halt on that.
It gone very quiet on that. It was one of those quietnesses that makes you go, that's never happening, is it? And it's a shame. Originally seen as being an American version of Squid Game, with Dennis Kelly, the creator of Utopia, hired to write it back in 2024. Netflix was eager to jump on the bandwagon of Squid Games and expand it out and start doing it around the world and doing different ones in different territories. But Fincher found that working with Netflix isn't always plain sailing. And there was been various development struggles, executive changes, and shifting of priorities. And so Fincher's moved on to things such as The Adventures of Cliff Booth, which is upcoming.
Would love him to go back to Mindhunters. Love to see a third season of that.
Now, I think that at some point Netflix will find someone else to take Squid Game over to America. But I don't know. Do we need it, really? Season 1 of Squid Game was brilliant. Season 2, I enjoyed, but it was already losing steam because the surprise had kind of gone from it. Right. I'm not really sure that we just need it to be retailored and retooled, because I don't think there's a huge story to grow from that franchise without it just becoming repetitive. Sometimes a show should just stay as a limited series, like Watchmen on HBO was.
Yeah, worked perfectly. Something else that was in development that looks now to have been put on hold is, and I can't remember if we talked about this, but back in April, news came out that the Batman, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, director Matt Reeves was set to direct an 8-episode Apple TV series adaptation of one of my favorite books, Tom Wolfe's 1987, The Bonfire of the Vanities. Yes, we did have a film version, which starred Bruce Willis. Everybody was miscast in this film, directed by Brian De Palma, and it missed a lot of the social critiques of the novel, and was one of those films that was kind of a critical and commercial bomb when it came out. Anyway, it seems that Apple aren't moving ahead with this series and decided to put a hold on it.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it is. It would have worked perfectly as in the same way that they did with Presumed Innocence, an 8-part series.
On the subject of cancellations, a couple of updates on things that were reported last week. So, 20th Century Studio President of Production Steve Asbell has shot down the talk of the cancellation of Alien Romulus sequel, which we spoke about last week.
Yeah,
because we said last week that it had been indefinitely shelved and might not ever happen. And he's given a single word response on social media of nope to shoot down that rumor. And we also mentioned that It's Welcome to Derry might not be getting a second season.
Yep.
Andy Muschietti this week has said we are in the writer's room now on that second season, which will take place in 1935, centering around the Bradley Gang massacre, which is mentioned in the original Stephen King novel. It's good news because I was a big fan, like we said last week, I was a bigger fan of It's Welcome to Derry than you were.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they can do to expand it out. And we both like the Alien franchise to do as much things as it can. And I'd like to see those characters from Alien Romulus come back.
Did you see the trailer that landed this week for the director's cut of X-Files Fight the Future?
I didn't know. I get confused with the X-Files movies. Is Fight the Future the first movie or the second movie? And wasn't there a third movie, or was there, or did I dream that? I can't remember.
No, there were two movies.
Fight the Future was the 1998 one. And I Want to Believe.
So you're right. I'm talking about I Want to Believe, Chris Carter's director's cut. It looks very good. So when this film originally came out, it was seen as a major disappointment. It wasn't creepy. It felt more like a procedural with some supernatural elements to it. Didn't feel very X-Filesy. Therefore, it was a bit of a disaster, and basically meant that the X-Files wasn't coming back to cinema. There was a last series which came out probably about 10 years ago now. So it is now coming out as The X-Files, I Want to Believe, Vrack Frankenstein, which is kind of a bit of an insight into a thriller exploring a real-life Dr. Frankenstein, though it's not clear yet to how many changes there are. It's a longer film, and Chris Carter says it's a film that he wanted to deliver, but the studio pulled it because they wanted a rating that was more family-friendly. This takes us into much darker territory. So I was, like everyone else, utterly disappointed by that last X-Files film. So looking forward to seeing what this is. And it lands on Disney Plus next week.
Update on God of War. Now, as we know, Ryan Hurst had to step away after an injury has delayed production far too long for them to go ahead with it. And they're recasting the role. Well, Dave Bautista is apparently in negotiations to play Kratos for the series.
How much do we love Dave Bautista here at the Film File?
A lot. Almost to the degree that a restraining order needs to be placed against us. That's how much we love him.
Okay.
It means that he'll have to shoot all the scenes that had already been shot with Ryan Hurst, setting into the role himself. Whether he's going to sign on the line remains to be seen, but this sounds like a really good bit of casting for it. It's a shame that Hurst had to step away because of the injury, and it was a very hard decision for Sony Pictures Television and Amazon MGM to do, to have to tell someone who they liked in the role. Unfortunately, this isn't on a track anymore. But Bautista is ideal because his background as a wrestler allows him to step into the physically demanding aspects of the production. And given that he's recently bulked up even further for the Highlander remake, which has just finished filming, he's in peak physical perfection for it. Looking forward to this adaptation. I mean, there's some great names within the whole cast. The supporting cast also includes people like Mandy Patinkin, who's playing Odin, Ed Skrein as Baldur. These are names that draw me in.
I don't know much about the game, but I'll certainly give the series a try. Talking of giving it a try, I didn't go to this. I know you didn't. I remember your review. The last Jurassic World movie. I can't remember what it was called. Was it Rebirth?
Yeah.
Gareth Edwards directed it. Did it have any Gareth Edwards-ness about it?
It had small elements of it, but he only came onto the production very late into it. So he didn't get a chance to put his whole stamp on it. He was basically fixing what was broken.
Right. Well, he's not going to fix the next one because he's stepping away from the sequel, though Scarlett Johansson and co-stars are still returning.
Yeah, Jonathan Bailey will be returning and Maya Shara Ali. Edwards apparently had creative differences with Universal over where to go. So he didn't get a chance to put his mark completely on the previous film. He was probably hoping to be given some freedom, given that was, something of a success with his name strapped to it. But no, the studio know what they want out of a Jurassic World film. they just want dinosaurs and generic action. Gareth Edwards likes to layer some subtext and themes and emotional depth. Meanwhile, over in The Mummy, or Mummy 4, or whatever they end up titling it, the Brendan Fraser Mummy. The Brendan Fraser Mummy franchise, which is coming back. Further updates on returning cast. Oded Fehr and Kevin J. O'Connor are going to reprise their roles from the original 1999 film. O'Connor played Benny Gabor, the French Foreign Legion comrade of Brendan Fraser's Rick. Fehr played Ardeth Bey, the leader of the secret society of warriors known as the Magi, who protected Egypt from the creature. He was great in those films. And in addition, John Hannah has indicated in an interview that Arnold Vosloo is going to be returning as well.
Okay.
So it's basically putting the whole team back together from the first film.
Whole band's back together.
I'm still can't really get excited for a Mummy film. I'll probably enjoy the end result. But like we said last week, we're not the generation that grew up with these Mummy films. We've got our own franchise. We've got Highlander that we're excited for. That's our Mummy. But I'm seeing like my younger colleagues at work very excited for Brendan Fraser's Mummy coming back. Whereas we want to see a horror Mummy done right come back to the screen.
One day.
One day. A couple of little bits of quick news. First of all, Zach Penn, who penned Ready Player One back in 2018, is reportedly now penning the sequel, Ready Player Two, according to The Direct, which this is again adapted from Ernest Cline's novel sequel from 2020, set after Wade Watts has won control of the virtual reality system known as the Oasis. Not a huge fan of Ready Player One. I thought the book was overrated. I thought the film was Spielberg fun, but candy floss fluff and nostalgia bait. And I'm expecting nothing more from Ready Player 2 because I've heard that the book is just exactly the same, dangling the nostalgia carrots.
It's sat on my bookshelf unread. Along with many other books. It's not just that one book. There are loads. I'm going, must get around to reading that one day.
Well, any good book collector has a bookshelf full of things that they've never read. That's part of being a book collector. You don't actually read the things that you buy. You just buy them because they look lovely on your shelf. And Oscar winner Russell Crowe and Priyanka Chopra Jonas are going to star in the Nimrod Antal directed sci-fi action thriller Blue Fly, which is going to shoot later this year in Australia. Deep in the Congo, a grieving UN translator is pulled onto a Black Ops mission to recover a downed aircraft that isn't supposed to exist. As a special ops team pushes upriver through militia-held territory, the recovery becomes a descent, and the closer they get to the craft, the clearer it becomes that they were never meant to bring it home. You've got me. I'm there.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Nimrod Antal directed The Predators, which I thought was one of the best Predator sequels.
Yeah.
But he didn't get much love, and he didn't get much of the career he should have had after that because he's a good action director and knows how to do sci-fi as well.
And over in these quarters, we have a lot of love for John Carter stories. Well, Brave co-director Mark Andrews has joined the animated series based on Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars series, with the Burroughs estate behind the effort. He co-wrote the live-action John Carter, which is a film that needs more attention from people because it was fun, pulp, sci-fi, and that's what it should be. So they've got the person who co-wrote that working on the animated series. I'm looking forward to this.
There were some trailer drops this week. I've already mentioned the aforementioned X-Files I Want to Believe director's cut. There was the first trailer for Violent Night 2. You were a big fan of Violent Night, a bit more than I was, but I did enjoy it.
I do like the inclusion of Kristen Bell as Mrs. Claus, Santa's wife.
A trailer that I had no interest in, and I'll probably see it when it lands on streaming because I'm not cinema bothered about this. Jumanji Open World.
There's a trailer that it starts off looking like it's doing something new with the property. The characters from Jumanji are in the real world. What a great concept. How to evolve it. But then it turns into everyone going into the game and being in characters again. Oh, okay.
And then another one I caught, the Exorcist 2 documentary about John Boorman, called Boorman and the Devil. Of course, The Exorcist 2 is one of the most lauded films of all time. It was being re-edited while it was still in cinemas because audiences hated it that much. John Boorman gets to talk about it. So I'm really, really intrigued as to what happened with The Exorcist 2.
There was one trailer that really caught my attention this week. It caught a lot of people's attention online. Prime Time.
The Robert Pattinson one. I've not seen it yet.
Yeah, the trailer is so good. drawing on the real-life tale of the 2000s reality TV series To Catch a Predator. And Robert Pattinson's playing Chris Hansen, who became involved in sting operations, confronting adult men with hidden cameras at a stinged house where they went to meet underage people they've been chatting to online. And the trailer makes it look... Do you remember the film Nightcrawler?
Yes.
It looks very similarly toned to that.
Okay.
That it's very dark and very sinister. And it straight away grabbed me and made me go, I am definitely interested in this film. I may say 24. I was expecting it to be some kind of interest, but that trailer's so good. Go and check it out.
I will do. I'm guessing that's the news. You're listening to No Barriers Radio, and you're listening to The Film File, the film show for film geeks by film geeks. And if you're enjoying the show, then check out the Film File podcast, which you can find quite easily by heading over to your favorite podcast platform, searching for The Film File, hitting that subscription button, and leaving a like. More to come on No Barriers Radio, and more to come on The Film File. And you can get in touch with us right here at Film File HQ by simply
heading over to social media platforms, search for Film File UK. You can get in touch with us through there. You can email us, podcast@filmfile.uk. Get in touch with us with any thoughts on films, any films that you want us to deep dive at some point, any films that you disagree with our opinions on. Feel free. We're always open to listen to other sides of the story. I'm looking at yet another year, and it's another year for my early childhood. This year I turned 6, and these are the films that had some influence on me, either back then or at some point during my life, that came out in the year 1979. Dive. So let's start as usual with a quick look at the US box office. At the top, we got Kramer vs. Kramer, a film that I've only recently seen, and it heartbroke me. Absolutely brilliant film. I'm not going to cover it in detail because it didn't influence my life. Amityville Horror is in there, Rocky 2, Apocalypse Now, Star Trek The Motion Picture, Alien, 10, The Jerk, Moonraker, and The Muppet Movie. I can safely say that I've seen all 10 of them, and these films from this year all had some impact on me. Production began this year on Empire Strikes Back in March. John Wayne passed away at the age of 72 from stomach cancer in June, and Don Bluth and some fellow Disney animators set off to make their own way in the world, creating the Don Bluth Animation Studios in September of this year. Raiders of the Lost Ark also went into production, and in the Oscars, Kramer vs. Kramer was the runaway Oscar winner, scoops a chunk of awards, whilst Woody Allen's Manhattan fared a lot better at the BAFTAs. So let's start with Amityville Horror. Now, I remember watching this when I was a kid and being absolutely chilled to the bone by it. And then I went back to it and watched it as an adult, and it's not a great film. I actually preferred the remake of more recent years of this film. Not just because it's got Ryan Reynolds in it, but because Ryan Reynolds is a lot more convincing as a really nice everyman who slowly gets warped and possessed. Now, the big controversy around the Amityville Horror was that it was allegedly a true story. Yet, so many details don't quite live up to it. There's the fact that the priest who was brought to exorcise it and backs up the claims was excommunicated. So he's got nothing to do with the church anyway. There's also the fact that many people have lived in the Amityville house and never reported anything strange. So why did it happen to these? Whether you believe it or not is all down to your own belief. If you want to believe in ghosts, ghoulies, spirits, spectres, that's fine. The rest of us will treat it just as the entertainment, chilling thrills that it is. It's not a terrible film. It just lacks something. Now, one film that is a great film and definitely worth checking out. Apocalypse Now. Now, war films can be good or they can be bad, or they can be completely and utterly bonkers. And Apocalypse Now managed to tread the line between absolutely amazing and completely utterly bonkers perfectly. The production on this film is a whole film of its own, and there's a documentary that got released that went into detail of what was going on behind the scenes, because this film is a product of everything that happened while they were making it. From the early scene of Martin Sheen trashing his hotel room, which was actually because he'd gone completely bonkers as an actor and started trashing things, and Coppola just said, bring the cameras in, get rolling, we're filming this. And they used it in part of the film. Marlon Brando refusing to learn his lines and just basically saying whatever he wanted on set and mumbling away in that way that he tends to do. You got Robert Duvall in there. You got Lawrence Fishburne, who had lied about his age in order to get on the production because he shouldn't have been there. And Dennis Hopper thrown into the mix. It's a great cast, loosely adapted from Hearts of Darkness, the novel about a journey into the Congo, but taking it into a Vietnam War kind of approach, with Martin Sheen being given one mission to go and find this absolute nutjob general who has set up a cult around him in the middle of the jungle. There's been multiple cuts of it since. There's been the Redux and there's been the more recent cut. I'd say stick with the original. The other cuts add in some scenes that were taken out, but they kind of like interrupt the flow of the journey. So Apocalypse Now is a film that I latched onto in the early to mid-teens, and it became a regular rewatch. I absolutely love the film. There's some shocking moments in there, and if you don't like animal cruelty, then just look away when they bring out a cow towards the end for a ritual sacrifice, because that was a real cow. We mentioned on past episodes that the 70s had a lot of disaster movies, and I was a big fan of disaster movies, so no doubt 1979 would give us some more disaster movies. Now, on 1978, we'd already seen how bad disasters could get with The Swarm. This year, we got a mixture of good, bad, and pure plain ugly. We'll start with the pure plain ugly. Airport 79, The Concorde. The stars were getting weaker, the cameos and the lineup was getting terrible, the plot line was getting absolutely bizarre, and the franchise was clearly laboured. Definitely one to avoid. Only try to grab an audience by going, oh look, we're going to use the Concorde. Everyone loves that Concorde, because if you were not alive during that era, oh my, you will not believe how people were just obsessed with this pointy-nosed aircraft. It was everywhere. Everyone was like, wow, amazing. For bad, you've got Meteor. I mean, it's got a good cast. It's got Sean Connery. It's got Henry Fonda. It's got Natalie Wood, Martin Landau. But Meteor strikes hitting the earth. We've seen it done in the 90s as well, when it made a resurgence with things like Deep Impact, etc. The production values let the film down, and it doesn't quite live up to what its promise actually should be. Now, one which I consider good, though a lot of people dismiss, Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. Irwin Allen directed the sequel. It has Michael Caine, Sally Field, who I've got a bit of thing for, and Telly Savalas. And it literally starts just as the Poseidon Adventure ends. And it's basically a salvage operation to try to see if there's any valuables worth claiming. And two groups are battling to get the most valuable stuff. It's got thrills, it's got drama, and it's got Sally Field. What's not to love? Get it watched if you've never watched it. It's a worthy sequel. It's not as good as the Poseidon Adventure. I mean, of course it isn't. There's not many sequels that are as good as the first film, except for maybe the modern Planet of the Apes trilogy. Definitely one to check out. Now, let's move on to comedy, because there was a good burst of comedy like this year. We obviously needed a good laugh at the end of 1979, and boy did we get it. We got a vampire spoof with George Hamilton, in which Dracula gets evicted from his ancient castle and has to move to New York. Love at first bite. It sounds like it should be bad, and it probably, deep down, is pretty bad, but the comedy does work. It's fun, it's witty. I've not watched it for a good few years, but I remember chuckling away like a mad child when I was about 14 and got this on VHS. Absolutely well worth seeing. Now, one film that you probably have seen, and pretty much is notorious for being one of the funniest films ever made, is Monty Python's The Life of Brian. Earlier in the decade, they'd given us The Holy Grail, which I personally think is the best Monty Python film, but this is their best story. Based during the time of Jesus, and it follows Brian, who was born at the same time as Jesus, as he goes around his humdrum life, trying to find an identity in the world, and get involved in some liberating terrorists who are trying to bring down Roman rule. Hilarious satire, sorely misunderstood by religious people at the time it got released, to such an extent that you had bishops going on TV to talking with the Pythons and insisting that this is absolutely disgraceful, despite the fact they'd never seen it. It is not blasphemous. It plays more on modern day things where people look for someone to lead them in rebellion. And yeah, it's pretty apt for this day and age that we live in. It's a genuinely funny film, and it's got some genuinely bonkers moments. Well worth seeing if you've never seen it. If you only know it by reputation, then you don't really know this film. Get it watched. It's a film that I'll go back to from time to time. Another film that I go back to from time to time, and I need to revisit because I've not gone back to it for about four or 5 years, is Steve Martin's first outing on the big screen, and that's The Jerk, a Carl Reiner comedy which sees Steve Martin play a white adopted son of a black family who's completely oblivious to the fact that he's not genetically their child. Grows up into an adult, goes off into the world, he's not the smartest of people, and Steve Martin's comedy style fits it perfectly. Absolutely hilarious. It was a great out-the-gates moment for Martin on the big screen, and it led to great roles in things like The Man with Two Brains. Well worth checking out. One film that a load of people think that I'm absolutely bonkers because I get some enjoyment from, and that's 1941. It's a war comedy with Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Nancy Allen, Robert Stack, and many more people popping up here, there, and everywhere. It's chaotic, it's anarchic, it's basically Spielberg trying to do National Lampoon. Not quite hitting the mark, but you know what? It's got a charm to it that I kind of get drawn into. I latched onto this at quite an early age. It's by no means a great film, but it's not as bad as a lot of people try to say. Some people say this is the worst Spielberg film. Yet those people have clearly never seen Ready Player One. Fun, some moments that don't work, some moments that could have just been chopped out, but it's got enough in there to keep me interested. On the subject of comedy, one thing that got a lot of laughs round about the time was the TV series The Muppet Show. Everyone knows The Muppets, even today, they're still going with various TV shows. This year, we finally got the origin tale for The Muppets with The Muppet Movie. It follows Kermit as he leaves his swamp to seek fame and fortune in Hollywood, along the way bumping into other Muppets who will join him on this adventure. Great film, loads of heart. When they did The Muppets about 10 years ago, the more recent one, it adopted a similar kind of approach following a different Muppet finding his way in life. And this has the same charm. And it also has Rainbow Connection, which is one of the most iconic songs that the Muppets have ever delivered. Muppet Movie, it's available on Disney Plus at the moment. If you've never seen it, get it watched, and then watch The Great Muppet Caper and all the others, because the Muppets just have a simple joy to them. They are absolutely brilliant for all ages. The kids will latch onto the simpleness of it. There's some subtle humour in there for adults as well, and there's cameos left, right and centre like you would expect from anything to do with the Muppets. Good waste of a few hours. We also this year had Quadrophenia, which was based loosely on the 1973 Quadrophenia rock opera by The Who, and it follows a mod played by Phil Daniels as he tries to gain recognition within the mod community and also tries to get close to the girl that he loves, played by Leslie Ash. You've also got Ray Winstone and Sting as the iconic and enigmatic leader of the mod group that he wants to get involved in. And it's set around the time of the mod versus rockers conflicts that went on that led to the big clash in Brighton in the UK. It's a great film. There's some great performances on screen. I mean, you forget how good Phil Daniels could be and Leslie Ash could be. And Sting is perfectly well placed. He seems so distant and above everything that he stands out from the rest of the crowd. Worth checking out whether you're a fan of The Who or not. The Who were great at churning out rock operas. You know, with this and Tommy, two iconic rock operas that got made into films. We also this year got Rocky 2. They said at the end of Rocky there wouldn't be a rematch, but of course there was going to be a rematch. Rocky was a huge hit. The whole story is very contrived. People thought that Rocky should have won on a technical victory, and he was the people's favourite, and that gets to Apollo Creed's ego, basically. It makes him feel, no, I'm not accepting this. I beat him fair and square, and I'll do it again. Rocky, determined not to get into another fight, he doesn't want to do it, slowly gets convinced. It's another personal journey. It's the growth of the characters. And whilst it's not as good as the first film, there's something about the soap operatic nature of the Rocky films that even on the weaker films, you still want to follow the characters. You still want to see where they grow and where they go to. One film that I've not seen from this year, which people are always shocked when I say, is The Warriors. Despite this is another one of those films that's on my list, and I know about the film, and I know the ins and outs of it, and I know apparently it's hugely influential, but I've not seen it myself, so I'm not going to talk about it in any great detail. Apparently hugely influential on a lot of people, didn't really impact on me. What did impact on me, and you should have twigged on this by now from the previous episodes, sci-fi. And boy, did Star Wars start something, because in 1979, sci-fi was everywhere. Bond had Moonraker come out this year and went all up into space with possibly one of the worst Bond films ever. Typical Bond adventure, only this time involving a space station and laser beams and nonsense. Not worth seeing, even if you're a big fan of the Bond franchise. This is the one that when I came to rewatch it, I was like, well, I'm never watching that again after this time. On the flip side, we had Alien, Ridley Scott's film which made a star of Sigourney Weaver, with a cast that include Tom Skerritt, John Hurt, Ian Holm, Harry Dean Stanton, Veronica Cartwright. If you don't know Alien, I mean, really, where have you been living? It's a horror in space. It's very subdued in the nature. It plays a grimy approach to space. It's not all flashy consoles and people wearing flashy uniforms. It is basically engineer works or transporters on a cargo ship transporting something, get diverted to go and find out what this signal is that's emanating from a planet. One of them ends up with a alien creature, a face hugger stuck to his face, and from that point onwards things go rapidly downhill for the crew. It's tense, it's shot beautifully. The design of the creature by H.R. Giger, it's majestic. It's majestically, beautifully terrifying. What a film. I can immerse myself in this film forever and never grow tired of it. And the director's cut that we had in recent decades, I think actually tightened it up and made the pacing even better, turning it from an already excellent film to a perfect film. We also have, from this year, on TV, a TV series started up called Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. As what tended to happen in the UK on a few things such as Battlestar Galactica, the pilot episode and the following episode were cobbled together and released for a limited cinematic release for the UK audience. Gil Gerard and Erin Gray were the main stars, and it follows Buck Rogers as his space mission goes slightly askew and he's thrown through time and wakes up in the 25th century and has to adjust to life in that era. It's basically another Flash Gordon. Enjoyable, a bit cheap and cheesy, but definitely had an impact on me during my childhood. I used to love watching the series on TV, and having a movie version of it was absolutely stunning. We also had The Black Hole, which a lot of people, they've got a lot of love for. Now, I did when I was a kid. I remember loving this. I loved, the characters in it. I mean, we had Anthony Perkins in there. We had Ernest Borgnine. We had Maximilian Schnell. We just didn't have much of a story. As a kid, I didn't care. I enjoyed the spectacle. I enjoyed the design of the ships. I enjoyed the little robots. One which was all broken and falling apart. One which was still, trying to guide him along. Oh, so cute. But the film itself, when I rewatched it as an adult, it's not actually as good as my nostalgia said it was. Yes, it impacted on me on the time. I had the pop-up book. There was a pop-up book that you could get, and I used to love that book. It was great. I don't know what happened to it. It's probably ended up in a charity shop somewhere. Not worth seeing now that you're an adult, except out of morbid curiosity. Don't expect much going into it. However, one film that I recently went back and rewatched, and I've still got a lot of love for, despite some people don't like it, and that's Star Trek, the motion picture. This was the first big screen outing for the crew of the USS Enterprise. Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Scotty, Chekhov, Sulu. They're wearing pyjamas in space. Let's ignore that era of the costume design. It wasn't good. Visually, a treat. Loads of people refer to it as the slow motion picture because it takes ages to do so many things. You know what? I don't mind that. I love it. It gives it a 2001 kind of feel where it lets you immerse yourself slowly into it. There's a whole section which is Kirk getting transported to the Enterprise that while it's in dry dock, transporters aren't working, so they're going via shuttle. And it does a full fly around of the ship, the new upgraded design for the movie that takes ages to do, but I lapped up every moment of it. It's Enterprise porn for fans of Star Trek. I can understand how people who aren't fans of Star Trek would have gone, oh, this has been going on for 5 minutes. Are they ever going to get to this ship? A great starting point for the series. Yes, it would be bettered by the next film, but it's not the bad film that loads of people try to claim it is. Loads of people try to claim that every odd-numbered film is terrible. The very first film out the gate disputes that. And that is basically the roundup of the films that had some kind of impact on me while I was growing up that came out in 1979. And next time, we'll be finally stepping out of the 70s and heading into the 80s.
Andy and I have both seen The Last House, but before that, kick off with a Sky original, will you, Andy?
And that's Tim Roth Ian Grufford and Rhoda Mitchell in Seven Snipers.
He's coming, along with the dragon.
I need ex-snipers. Our team.
Good to go.
One of us is going to be dead.
Stick by your mum.
Are you doing this? Together, we survive.
A retired sniper's past comes back to haunt her and her daughter when her quiet farm life in the Australian countryside comes under fire from a vengeful warlord from her past. Calling on her former kill squad to assist, she must fight off the lone enemy whilst also confronting the traumas of her violent past life. This is as average as you can get for a Sky original release, with a strong cast lineup that feel underserved by a film that doesn't give you much to care about their characters, whilst the plot sputters along and doesn't really come together in any plausible way. Rhoda Mitchell, in the lead role, tries her hardest, but is too cold and distant to find anything to care about. Not even the plight of her daughter, played by Annabelle Wolfe, who is just kind of there in the film to attempt to add to the emotional stakes. Tim Roth, as the silent killing warlord, holds his own, but generally doesn't get a lot to do aside from fire off perfect single shot kills from a distance, until the final act where his perfect ability seems to stop for some reason. It's always been nice to see Ian Grufford pop up, and as one of the kill squad, he does manage to be the only one of the gang who you end up rooting for, but that's more because of Grufford than any of the limited depth his character is given. The action is okay, but it becomes very clear early on that sniper fights aren't actually that exciting, given it's generally shoot into the distance, wait, get shot from an invisible foe in the distance, with no thrill or peril. So the film would have to rely on tension as the squad are pinned down in the farmhouse, from all directions, it must be said, despite only one enemy. But sadly, this aspect is also lacking, and not aided by a bland and mainly annoying score that plays out almost constantly. As the film rolled to the final act and tried to reveal the backstory to Mitchell and Roth's character relationship, none of which comes as a surprise, I was already counting the minutes until it ended. Some beautiful location shots aside, when they're not using drone cam shots, that is, this is a mundane little film that feels like it could have been something better in stronger hands. At just under 90 minutes, it's only worth watching if there's nothing, and I mean nothing, else available.
I saw this pop up on Prime. It looked like, well, another shark film. Is it just another shark film?
I mean, it's Catherine Newton, and it's sharks, and it's caving. It could have been The Descent and Jaws. It's The Devil's Mouth.
This is our last adventure together before we all start our real lives. Tomorrow, Devil's Mouth for all of us.
Hello, Swadee Krab. I will be your cave guide today. And does anyone have fear of water or of swimming?
I'm not afraid of the water, just what might be in it.
Wow.
This is Devil's Mouth. We are guests here.
Jeez. Oh, all these fish are dead.
What happened?
There's so much blood.
Everything's fine.
Okay, we need to leave now.
We are leaving.
Shark.
I'm sorry. How is there a shark in a freshwater cave system?
A group of friends are travelling to Thailand and go cave exploring at Devil's Mouth, where the father of Catherine Newton's Sarah used to love visiting before he passed away. However, when one of the group, Max, played by Lana Condor, uses her bullish nature to change the route through the caves to a more dangerous one, it leads to the group finding peril in the cave exploration and risking never surviving. Oh, and there's a shark in there too, just for good measure. Look, I'm a sucker for a shark film, and the cave diving aspect offered potential for some claustrophobic tension to boot. With Newton leading the cast, I was definitely going to be in to watch this, so it's such a shame that Newton is the only thing worth watching this mess for. The film suffers from the same thing so many recent years' horrors or thrillers have had, when they have a group of friends placed together in peril. Aside from the main character, Sarah, played by Newton, the rest are absolutely abhorrent people or totally underdeveloped, so swiftly become an annoyance so strong that you find yourself actively cheering for their deaths. Newton does hold her own well, but she may as well be a one-person show here, as the rest of the cast are just in the way. The cavern system, that is supposed to be more dangerous, feels entirely unthreatening as they traverse its chambers, with the only real danger coming from the shark, which shouldn't even be there anyway. Its reason for being trapped is something to do with recent floods, which seems implausible when you get to the final act. If you expect difficult spaces to navigate, creating tension and peril, such as with films like The Descent, then get ready to be immensely disappointed, as every chamber in this film is huge and open. The underwater sequences play well enough with the shark, having it being shadowy in the distance before slowly revealing it entirely over the course of the film, but it's nothing we haven't seen done better before many other times. And it generally feels like it was only added to the story because the cave threat was a bit rubbish. Most of the caves are blandly lit and pretty unremarkable. There's one primary cave that stands out as the luminescent algae react to motion and glow, providing one of the film's more beautiful moments. The rest of the film, however, just feels laboured, drab and drawn out. The Devil's Mouth is just another underdeveloped horror film from Jeff Wadlow, who has given us such greats as Fantasy Island, Truth or Dare and Imaginary. At least this time, he isn't wasting a cinema screen for it. I kind of feel sorry for Catherine Newton because she's got so much potential, as she showed with things like Map of Tiny Perfect Things, which we both loved.
Yeah.
But she just signs up for a lot of generic roles when she's capable of so much more than this.
And a film that we've both seen landed on Netflix on Friday night, The Last House.
I think we're trapped in here. We're sealed in.
What the hell's going on?
I don't know. But we are safe. We are in our home.
Oh my god!
It's not just us. The whole world. But most importantly, we have each other.
I saw someone outside today.
What is something out there? It's keeping us trapped.
What do we do?
We survive. This is going to end one day.
The setup is quite a Twilight Zone sort of setup. A family living in Seattle whose house is mysteriously sealed by unnatural looking rain through an unnatural thunderstorm. The family are forced to survive with diminishing resources as the rest of the neighborhood, well, doesn't look like they're going to make it, hence the title of The Last House. But there is an unseen threat lurking outside. The film stars Greta Lee and Mike Namora, who are fantastic as the patriarchs of this particular family. And for the first half of the film, I think both Andy and I agree that this is a very, very much a Twilight Zone story. What happens when you are trapped, locked in your home? I guess we went through it with COVID to a degree, and it plays on some of those tensions. How will this family survive? How, most importantly, will the family dog survive? But this is a relatively straightforward streaming affair, of which, for most of it, I was entertained. Though the second half, I think, Andy, we both agree, it kind of goes off the rail.
Yeah, the Twilight Zone style opening, because it's all very sudden that it happens. It's just the family return home and literally the thunderstorm breaks out and they've discovered that they not only can not open the doors, but windows won't break as there's a strange watery residue entrapping them within the house. There's a lot of subtext as well played on in the first half of this film. Right from the offset, we discover that their house is close to falling apart. Only the chimney holds it all together. And there's cracks there, but there's also cracks in the relationships of the family as well. And then when they're trapped in the house, they have to kind of get over their own cracks within their emotional connections, but also the house that might fall apart around them, that's only now being held together by this mysterious rain. whilst there's monsters in the rain outside. And I love how it plays with that for that first 45 minutes. I was completely drawn in, mainly because the cast are so good. Even the young actors, which there's two lots of young actors because it does a time jump in the film so that the age. The young actors are pretty solid in their roles, but Wagner Moura is magnificent. And working alongside Greta Lee, the pair have it feels like a natural wedded relationship. They feel authentic.
What works in that first half certainly is one of those issues that what happens when you are trapped in your own home, and there's a lot of fun with the ingenuity of how they survive, how they pull together to be able to survive when you've got nothing left to live on. And the film works out pretty well how a family, the one house on the street, make it through while these mysterious elements are at play. But then it moves into the third act, and that's where the film doesn't hold together. The setup and the understanding, the action of the film works perfectly well. It's the third act that kind of feels as though it's a different film entirely.
It kind of just becomes a generic Netflix sci-fi action film in the final act. Loses all the underlying subtext from the earlier part of the film to just go special effects glory. And don't get me wrong, the effects in this are pretty good. And there's some, the creature designs. I love the creature designs, very Cthulhu-esque, very deep ones rising up. And they're played well, but they sit uncomfortably with a film that was going for a different approach for the first half. And this is the problem with a lot of the Netflix streaming films, is that it's 1 hour 50 approximately, just under 2 hours. But it outstays its welcome because it squanders that final act so badly. I said to you off air when this started, I felt that this is a film that, with a Twilight Zone kind of aesthetic, should have opted for a Twilight Zone kind of finale where they leave some ambiguity. But instead, it wants to over-explain a lot of things in the last act. I wanted ambiguity. I didn't want it all laid out and spoon-fed to me. I want to make my own decisions about what this film's trying to say. What it's trying to say to me from the first two acts is that fractures in families can be healed by coming together and realizing that you can overcome each other's differences and fight off whatever is threatening your household from outside. You lose that in the final act as it turns into a CGI spectacle.
Yeah, totally agree. So it is a moderately entertaining couple of hours. You won't be let down too much. Give it a spin. It's worth it. It's better than a Sky original, that's for sure.
It's just a shame that it just doesn't stick the landing well.
So that's what's out this week. What's coming up over the next week?
We're both looking forward to the main release next week, and we're both intending to watch it and talk about it next week. And that's The End of Oak Street. Coming off the back of us talking about something like The Last House, I'm hoping The End of Oak Street sticks the landing, because it looks like a very similar kind of like Twilight Zone-esque concept. Please do it right. There's also Sunny Dancer opens, Tony, which I'm looking forward to, the biopic of Anthony Bourdain, and Lady. Over on Now TV and Sky, Hamnet lands this week. So if you're doing your one film per day, you can catch up on Hamnet.
Yeah.
Signal 1 and Tom and Jerry, The Forbidden Compass. Woo.
Oh, let's
can't
forget that.
wait. Over on Netflix, for those who are ready for Practical Magic 2 coming out in cinemas in a couple of weeks, Practical Magic lands on Netflix for you to play catch up. And Don't Say Good Luck also lands on there. Whilst over on Disney Plus, Camp Rock 3 lands for those who care. And over on Amazon, Reacher Season 4.
And that's us just about done for this week. And if you've made it thus far, think about subscribing and become a regular listener to the Film File. But now it's our neat thing, stuff that we've enjoyed over the last week that we want to share with you. Andy, what was your neat thing for this week?
My neat thing this week is a show that I've been watching for the past couple of weeks. It's now finished its run. It's on HBO Max, and it's Life, Larry and the Pursuit of Unhappiness. Larry David, we know that he's finished Curb Your Enthusiasm. He's got no intention to do it. But why not just take that idea and take it into a history of America kind of show? One of the producers on this is Barack Obama, and it casts its eye through important key moments in American history, but with Larry David bringing his Larry David charm and cynicism to every scene and messing things up. So it covers the assassination of Lincoln, which Larry David's character was apparently involved in. It covers everything that is important in American history, but through a Larry David kind of mess up of history. I'll be honest here, if you're not a fan of Larry David, do not even bother with this, because he's gone full Larry David. And I'm all for it. I've absolutely enjoyed this. A couple of the sketches don't quite land as well as you think they could have done, but most of them had me chuckling. And in the very last episode, Obama himself pops up as himself to talk about one of the biggest instances in 2014 to affect his presidency, when he wore the tan suit.
And that caused controversy. Do you remember Fox News were all over that?
Crazy. I mean, CNN were also all over it. Everyone was discussing it on every news channel. It's like, what's the purpose of the tan suit? Why is he wearing this? And it tackles it in the perfect Larry David way. If you've not seen this, it reminded me, when I started watching it, of Mel Brooks's History of the World.
That's what it made me think of when I saw the trailer.
Mel Brooks's History of the World had a TV series that didn't land as well as this did for me. I've loved it. It closed really well on the very last episode. It doesn't need a second season. It was a great way for us to get more Larry David in our lives now that Curb's finished.
My neat thing is a graphic compilation of a 12-issue run from DC. And I've mentioned DC's Absolute series before. I talked about Absolute Batman and Absolute Superman. Now I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite, not only Absolute books, but one of my favorite books of the year that kind of defies description and yet it exceeds your expectation, and that is Absolute Martian Manhunter. This is a joy of a comic book based on the 1960s comic character, the Martian Manhunter. This is a psychedelic retelling of that particular character, and as I said before, in its 12-issue run, is incredibly challenging. The concept makes it feel more like an indie comic than a mainstream superhero comic, and is very, very psychedelic. The premise is John Jones, detached FBI agent who survives a devastating explosion, begins experiencing these psychedelic Martian visions, a symptom of an alien presence that it is merging with his own psyche. But instead of getting the traditional superhero comic, this serves as almost as a bizarre buddy cop dynamic between an emotionally hardened human and this cosmic entity that's trying to translate human empathy. The artwork is what really makes this. It's bright. It's almost 1960s pop art. It abandons the usual color palettes of the comic book medium. The characters' emotion and unspoken thoughts are shown through the illustrations. This is one of the most unique titles that you will read. If you are not a fan of your big twos, your Marvels and your DCs, like comic books that are more metaphysical and a bit more mind-bending, this could be the series for you. I could not put down this high-concept psychological thriller that wanders into science fiction territory and at times horror territory to be one of the best trade paperbacks of the year.
I've not got round to Absolute Martian Manhunter, but all the Absolute series is impressing me so far. So it is on my list of titles to get round to.
It does make me want to go to some of the other books that are out there. I've not checked out the Wonder Woman one or the Green Arrow version, but this is fantastic. Well, folks, that's us done for another week. Before we go, please leave a review if you haven't done so. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Just become part of the Film File family. Help support the show. Help us talk about cinema every week. And if you don't support us, we'll still be talking about cinema every other week,
whether you want us to or not.
I shall see you this week, Andy, for a screening of Last House at the End of the Lane, or whatever it's called.
End of Oak Street.
oh yeah, there. I'll put it in the sat nav.
Yeah.
Keep watching movies, folks.
Watch more films.